For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Well, another one has left us. Another legendary celebrity has passed away, as you might have heard yesterday. You probably heard by now, right? If you're on social media and you're tuned into the whole podcast thing, you're in touch with the news. You know what's going on. But Burt Reynolds died on Thursday, and like we did with Aretha Franklin, our friend Lauren Zima from ET and ET Online will be joining us to take a look back at the life of a legend. We're going to talk about his movies and his life and his sex symbol status and everything else that we can cram into the show today. So Lauren Zima from ET and ET Online is coming up to chat about Burt Reynolds. Now, with school back in session, at least for my friends in Canada, my mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law are all teachers. And it always brings up these news stories about watching your speed when you're out driving and being careful on the roads, because now little kids are running out and they're darting in front of the cars and things like that. Well, apparently there's a new virtual reality program that is teaching kids how to cross the street. My first thought when I heard that was, isn't that what the parents teach you? Don't your parents teach you how to cross the street? Don't they? So I'm going to go on a bit of a rant a little bit later after we chat with Lauren. My thoughts on that and where parenting is headed these days. Maybe more specifically, I'll say it that way. I don't know if it's a thing about are kids just stupider or are parents just lazy? I'm not quite sure, but I'll have my kids just stupider. That's a great way to build self-esteem for the youngsters, hey? No, you know that I'm all about sarcasm and talking like that on this show. So stick around for that. We're going to get into the show right now. Lauren Zima from ET Online talking about Burt Reynolds right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Well, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago that we had ET Online host Lauren Zima with us talking about the sad passing of Aretha Franklin, Queen of Soul, right? A legend in the music biz. And now we're doing it again, though, this time a legend in film. As we heard yesterday, Burt Reynolds did pass away. He had a heart attack. He was 82 years old. Lauren, we have to stop meeting like this, unfortunately, hey?
I know, at least that when we are meeting like this, it is to honor and talk about absolute icons of the entertainment world. This isn't just somebody who you feel sad about and then maybe these are icons that we're talking about here, and Burt Reynolds certainly falls in that category.
Absolutely. Now, I guess, we were just talking about this off air, though. I mean, unfortunately, we're going to be seeing a lot of these types of things as all of these, older stars they're going to be leaving us, essentially. And so I don't know that we necessarily saw this one coming. Now, just sort of to recap, I mentioned he's 82 years old. He did have a heart condition, or at least heart troubles, dating back almost a decade, not quite. He had surgery, and then he had a heart attack on Thursday. But was he in relatively good health, though, in recent years? Do we know?
Yes, it's interesting, as kind of depressing as it is, to be responsible journalists, we do often have obituaries prepped for people who we know are sick or who are aging. And Burt Reynolds was 82, but I have to be honest, we did not have a ton prepped on him because he seemed so ready and willing to keep working. He had multiple projects in the works. He was signed on to, and he had done table reads for Quentin Tarantino's new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is also going to star Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. And we did learn that he had not actually filmed those scenes yet, so I would assume, of course, his part will be recast. But from what his family has come out and said in their statement, basically, as you mentioned, he had health issues over the years, but they were surprised by this. They did not know that a heart attack was coming. So he had a heart attack, we've learned, at home, and he was transported to a hospital, but, of course, he ultimately did pass.
And quite a legendary career. So many movies to talk about. And there's an interesting one that I have in our family. I'm 36, so many of his big hits were kind of a little bit before my time. But my dad absolutely loved Smokey and the Bandit, and my brothers and I watched it with our parents when we were a little bit older. And I don't even really think we understood the movie. I certainly didn't anyway. But I do know that our pet dog was named Bandit because my brother said, well, Dad loves the movie. Bandit's a really cool name for a dog. So we kind of have a Burt Reynolds connection in our family, I think, right? I mean, but do you have any, favorite movies or movie highlights from Burt?
I have to say, I don't know if I have a favorite. I actually am so intrigued by the career that this man had with the parts that he turned down. He had this thing where he would say he wanted to go out swinging, and he kind of did that his whole life. He took risks, didn't take risks. I was reading up on it today and learning he turned down Han Solo in Star Wars. He turned down John McClane in Die Hard. He turned down the movie Terms of Endearment. So Burt Reynolds, even with passing up on some of these major movie roles, and some of which, by the way, he said he regretted. Like he said he regretted turning down Terms of Endearment. He still had this career where you remember, and everybody's heard of movies like Smokey and the Bandit, or from Smokey and the Bandit in '77 all the way up to Boogie Nights decades later, he was still making this major mark, and that kind of longevity isn't easy. I think in the late '70s, early '80s, he was a top, if not the top, box office draw at that time.
You mentioned that the regrets that he says that he had, and I know that he also did regret. We now the bearskin rug photo. I'm sure you know about that. And that was
yes.
It was a magazine. What was the magazine? It was
Cosmopolitan. Yes. So of course he laid completely naked, chest hair out, and more out on a bearskin rug for the cover of Cosmopolitan. That issue sold 1.5 million copies. Became iconic. He was also very famously kind of one of the only men to ever be on the cover of Playboy. So he did this thing where he kind of went back and forth between being a really respected actor. I mean, he ended up getting an Oscar nomination for Boogie Nights, but also being this sex symbol, of course, that we all know. So made his mark with the cover of Cosmopolitan and also with being number one at the box office. Not many people have had a career like Burt Reynolds, if anybody.
I have this feeling that that image is going to be trending this weekend, for Google image searches. People are probably going to be looking it up.
Yeah, and he was also known for a sex symbol and kind of known for his love stories too. Up on our website right now, we have a look back at his love story with Sally Field, because that is a story of kind of just very real pain. What I've loved about Burt Reynolds over the years, and we have a lot of different video retrospectives up on our website right now because we've interviewed him so many times. He was actually in our very first ET broadcast ever, more than 30 years ago. But he was always a very honest interview. He always, like I said, owned mistakes he'd made, said, I wish I hadn't done that. He regretted the Cosmopolitan thing. He regretted some roles he turned down. And one of his biggest regrets, he always said, was letting Sally Field get away. They dated for about 5 years. He fought for her to get cast in Smokey and the Bandit, and he was told, well, she's not sexy, and his argument back was, well, talent is sexy. And so they dated for about 5 years. They did multiple movies together, but gosh, this was literally just in the past year or so, 2 years maybe, he put out a memoir, and he said that Sally Field is someone he still thinks about all the time, and she responded to that, said they don't really speak. He said that her children had told him that their mom still spoke of him, but they didn't really have a relationship these days. And so it's just sort of this really painful, deep iconic love story. And we actually got a statement from Sally since she had learned of his passing, and she said that he is someone who will just always be on her mind. Actually, if I can, I'll just read it. She said, she said at the end, Buddy, she called him Buddy, but in the statement she said, there are times in your life that are so indelible they never fade away. They stay alive even 40 years later. My years with Burt will never leave my mind. He will be in my history and my heart for as long as I live. Rest, Buddy. So that's a love story for the ages.
Have we heard from Lonnie Anderson? Because, on the subject of relationships, they had, I think that it was about not quite, or a little over 5 years they were married, and that was a tumultuous relationship. Just to remind everybody, there was talk of infidelity, domestic abuse, drug use, quite a rocky relationship. Have we heard from Lonnie Anderson?
I have not at this point, no. And, they... it obviously might be too painful and too much too soon for her to speak out yet. But so many other people weighing in. I mean, Goldie Hawn, who co-starred with him, posting to Instagram about him. Her daughter, Kate Hudson, grew up on movie sets, and she posted a picture of a young her with Goldie and with Burt, and just had a heartbreak emoji posted with it. So I think he was somebody who, for all his flaws, for the ups and downs he had in his romantic relationships, he was generally very beloved in Hollywood. He wasn't somebody who the community, isolated. People had really deep friendships with him. So he's a loss that I think will really be felt. And again, because while he was older, it's still feeling that this was sudden.
All day yesterday, though, we did hear from celebrities chiming in, and we heard from the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, all these rough and tough guys saying some really touching things and sharing some nice stories about him. So who else have we heard from outside of personal relationships, former co-stars and things like that? Who have we heard from?
Yeah, I got to go back to Goldie Hawn because she just said there is only one Burt Reynolds. One. I loved our time and laughs and fun together, and now the angels will giggle at your silly jokes. And those big tough guys, because he did have this macho man time in his life as well, and vibe to him, and his mustache and his, kind of big presence. So he's somebody who kind of was beloved by women and respected by men overall, and he touched a lot of people. And the thing is, he'd had a lot of health issues in recent years, as we've said, but he just loved working. His family told us in a statement, his niece said, my uncle was looking forward to working with Quentin Tarantino and the amazing cast assembled. He wanted to make this new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. How many actors are still working in their early 80s? And he just wanted to do it. He loved the craft. And he said that a lot of the roles that he had turned down were for reasons like because he thought he wouldn't be taken seriously as an actor, or he didn't know how that would look. And some of that he regretted. But as much as he was the macho guy or the sex symbol on the bearskin rug, he really cared about acting.
And we do see that a lot, at least in show business anyway. These people, Betty White is a prime example, mid-90s now, that I guess they just love it so much that they don't want to slow down. They just want to keep doing more and more and more. And you don't see that in many other industries, let's say, right? You don't see that necessarily in, office work or something like that.
Yeah, it's that passion. It's always in the artist, isn't it? But everybody, like you said, Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's always interesting too about these moments is you kind of maybe learn about some Hollywood relationships that you didn't know about. Like Arnold saying Burt Reynolds was one of his heroes, and Reba McEntire. Yeah. She said, "My good friend has started a new journey," and I'd kind of maybe I'd just forgotten about their times together. Sly Stallone saying, his friend, he remembers him from back in 1979, what a history they had together. And then actors who just respected him, Rob Lowe calling him a legend, Adam Sandler also using the word legend, and they had worked together a little bit. Ike Barinholtz just saying rest in peace and listing all the Burt Reynolds movies you should watch: Deliverance, The Longest Yard, Boogie Nights, The Last Movie Star. So somebody who affected everybody, and that's how you know he was an icon.
I imagine over the weekend we're going to see a spike, whether it's downloads, Netflix or iTunes or something of his movies, right? I imagine that'll happen this weekend in the coming days. Yeah,
and rightfully so. When we lose musicians, they're sales of their songs go up. I hope that it's, and sometimes I love when these streaming services like Netflix, they'll kind of curate and bring those movies up to the forefront so that you can access them easily and celebrate the great work of this person.
Yeah, we've talked about him being a sex symbol back in the day, and even seeing some recent photos of him. And this is actually kind of goes to the Aretha Franklin thing as well. Looking damn good for their age, though, right? I don't know, is there something about that generation, maybe?
Yeah, the thing is, he really still looked like Burt Reynolds, didn't he? He still had that strong jawline and the beard and the eyebrows and the hair. His haircut and his facial hair had not changed much in years. He was still very recognizable as Burt Reynolds. I will say that on a recent carpet, we had a red carpet, we had a reporter there interviewing him, and he did kind of have to sit down on the carpet. He was in need of, red carpets are kind of long and strenuous sometimes, and he did have to sit for a minute or sort of lean on the ropes a little bit to do some of the interviews. So I do think we knew, that his health was, again, failing a little bit, but nobody knew that it was quite at the point it was at.
No, again, so it's a sad story. You mentioned earlier lots of information and tributes and look back at his life online, right?
Yes, absolutely. We have so many great pieces up online. We look at an in-depth look at the love story of Burt Reynolds and Sally Field, looking back at his best moments with E.T., like I said, such a candid interview. He would kind of say anything. He would own up to his mistakes. He would criticize himself. We have an interview moment with him where, he talks about the Cosmopolitan cover, and he's like, I don't even know who that guy is. Why did I do that? So he was a really, really amazing man to behold, and we've got all of that up at etonline.com.
I should point out, that was also before the days of photoshopping and everything, too, so that was probably all natural. That was natural Burt Reynolds, I think.
It's very natural, and no waxing either.
No, not even close. It's actually kind of hard to tell which is the bear and which is... Well, anyway, all right. Well, again, like I said at the top, we have to stop meeting like this, but I do appreciate your time, Lauren Zima from ET Online. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, as always.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble, and again, thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Interesting story for you. The other day I was out walking the dogs. I had actually just left my house, so I was not even 2 blocks away. And I crossed the street, and then I just got to a back lane. I just got to an alley. And there was a car that, it didn't almost hit me. I walk with headphones in my ears, and I do look both ways. I do know how to cross the street, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But this car came out of the back lane, and the guy stopped, and he rolled down his window, and he was saying something, but I couldn't hear because I did have my headphones in. And so I pop out one headphone, and I was like, hi. He's like, oh, excuse me, here. And he hands me something out of his car window. Now, I've got 2 dogs, and I've got a leash in each hand, so I don't quite have a free hand to now, take something from somebody. And I honestly thought, because there's an election here coming, that I thought that he was just handing me, a pamphlet or something about a candidate, because the signs are popping up on people's front lawns, and, the things are getting slipped in your mailbox. And so that's truly what I thought he was doing. And then I was kind of like, okay, well, it doesn't really look like that, because I don't see... Then I thought, okay, he's one of those people that just kind of hands you, the Bible verse, those little cards that have the Bible written on it, or a verse or a quote or something. So then I actually saw it because he kind of kept waving. And so I go and I take it. It's a $1 off coupon for dog treats. And so I was like, okay, that's convenient. And then I actually looked at it. It was expired at the end of last year, like December 31st last year, and $1 off. And so I was like, oh, great, thanks. And then he's like, do you live around here? And to me, I was just, I don't know. In the moment, I just said yes, and then I put in my headphone and I kept walking because I wasn't expecting like full-on conversation with some random old 70-year-old guy who pulls up beside me as I'm out walking the dogs or in front of me as I'm walking the dogs. And it just, it really made me uncomfortable after the thought, because now I'm looking around going like, is this guy following me? Like maybe he was just being nice. Maybe he was, I don't know, trying to make conversation. But it's like, I've got these two really big dogs that are like wanting to power walk and go, and and then somebody's like, well, he was flirting with you. He was probably going to ask, if you wanted to go out sometime, whatever. And I was like, I don't know, just in the moment, I didn't know what. And I don't want to be one of those people who's like, yeah, please don't flirt with me, I'm taken, because that's not, I don't know what the intent was. But it just kind of, but if somebody pulls, do you live around here? Like, how would you take that? Would it make you feel uncomfortable or awkward? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. I definitely want to know your thoughts on this. And how would you have lied? Because it's like, do you live around here? Well, I'm walking dogs in this neighborhood. It's not like I was at a dog park or something. Like, generally I don't get in a car and drive 25 minutes and go walk my dogs in another neighborhood, though I might now. It just seemed, it seemed strange to me. It did strike me as odd. live@jbonair.com. Now, on the subject of crossing streets, there was a story that a company has developed a virtual reality program to teach kids how to cross the street. So I guess, you put on the goggles and they look both ways and things like that. Here's the deal. I wrote a newspaper column about it. Isn't that what parents are for? Like, if my parents threw me a phone back in the day and said, or a pair of goggles, here, go learn how to cross the street, I would have just felt like, what kind of a parent are you? Like, this is, that it is so horrible. Now, maybe traffic is worse nowadays. I really don't know. But first of all, how difficult is it to cross the street? Well, apparently the statistics in this Canadian Press article are suggesting that it is quite difficult for kids to learn how to cross the street. But then I'm sitting there going, maybe is it difficult for parents to teach things? Because we always hear there's an app for that. I imagine, I'm not a parent, but I imagine there's parenting apps galore. Something has to be teaching them how to teach your kids, right? There's got to be an app that teaches you how to teach your kids. And I would think that parents would almost take joy in that. I know that my parents loved running beside us as we were on our bikes trying to learn how to, we'd have training wheels, and then they'd run beside us and hold the back of the bike, or they'd, when my brothers, I remember my dad making these little poles for the front street when my brother was learning to parallel park and drive, and my dad making those poles and being out on the front street with my brothers, and like, those are the kinds of memories that I have as, from my parents, that they were actually doing things with us and teaching us. But how difficult is it to cross the street? My dogs know how to cross the street. My dogs know to stop when they get to a corner, but yet children can't. So this makes me wonder, are kids stupid, or are parents unable to educate their own kids? And again, I wrote a newspaper column about it actually maybe a year or two ago, something titled like, who's doing the teaching, or who or what is doing the teaching? Because we're relying on technology so much to teach our kids things, and that's fine. TV on Sesame Street taught me or helped me learn the alphabet, but school also taught me as well. It was just it was part of the learning, right? It wasn't just, plop you down in front of a television. We had books. My mom's a teacher, so it also helped, that she was reading to us and doing things like that. So it wasn't a substitute. It complemented the learning that we were doing. I don't see that to be happening nowadays. So tell me what you think about this. Virtual reality teaching kids how to cross a street. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. SpeakFreeWithJB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
That is right. We are on the Twitter. Jeremy Bradley here again, back on the Scribble. The Scribble, the Twitter. We are everywhere. And we've got 5 minutes to go. We have 5 minutes to kill. How rare is that? Because normally I ramble on so much that we fill the time and we actually don't have enough time to get to everything that we had on the list. So I do have some things to talk about. You know, we were mentioning Burt Reynolds and a couple of weeks ago with Aretha Franklin. Those were not one-hit wonders, right? They were not. Burt Reynolds, dozens, I would say, movies under his belt. More than a handful of them very, very famous movies, right? And so what happens, though, nowadays, because fame is so fleeting, that you're a celebrity one minute and then you're not the next, right? Jeffrey Owens, you remember him from The Cosby Show, right? He took flack for kind of having The Cosby Show as his one sort of claim to fame and photographed at Trader Joe's a couple months ago. And, you know, it's just... And I don't want to call him a one-hit wonder. Actually, that wasn't even really the point of the story. I was going to mention Vanilla Ice, but let's talk about Jeff Owens, who I met. We met at the 2011 TV Land Awards in New York City. I remember. Here's the thing. I'm going to open up a little bit. I was kind of drunk on the red carpet. I was kind of drunk. I was kind of drunk on the red carpet in New York, and I went back. We did interview him. We don't have the clip on our website, and we didn't use it on the broadcast, but we do still have the audio. And oftentimes what happens is when these celebrities come to talk to us, we're either kind of always recording, so the mic is always hot, it's always on. And we did find the clip of me chatting with him, talking about his time on The Cosby Show and being at the TV Land Awards. And we were actually recording before we were on, quote unquote on. And he was a genuinely nice guy. And I you know, I'm not saying that makes up, but, you know, there have been people who have done a lot worse things to get by and provide to their family. And here's a guy who's not, asking for handouts. He's like, you know what? I'm not above going to a grocery store and working there. Like, to me, that's admirable. I don't know what you mock him, but at the same time, you know, Hollywood is one of those places where you don't get all these opportunities, right? There's times when even the big names don't have work. I mean, that's not uncommon. Now, he was working, just nothing big like The Cosby Show. But, you know, the same could be said for other people, who am I thinking of? Janet Wood. She, on Three's Company. Joyce DeWitt. Thank you. That was kind of her one claim to fame. And then I see these videos on YouTube of her reuniting with Suzanne Summers 30 years later, and she's still doing interviews for Three's Company. And to me, she's riding that. She's milking that for as much as she can. And I think even selling autographed photos on her website, I noticed a couple years ago. And so, you know, at least Jeff Owens isn't one of those people who's clinging on to The Cosby Show and trying to milk that for all it's worth now and still make money from that. He's moved on. And so, you know, it must be for some people humiliating to go from being on a number one show to then being an out-of-work actor. I mean, you got to think about how many people in Hollywood are trying to make it in show business, right? It's not easy to do. As I mentioned, it's really easy to get your 15 minutes nowadays, thanks to the internet, right? Social media, YouTube, what have you. But there's got to be some longevity. And so this sort of ties back into the Burt Reynolds thing that we were talking about. And, you know, somebody like Vanilla Ice where, you know, you're a one-hit wonder, but that also kind of works against you. You have this one-hit song that maybe you didn't necessarily write. I feel the same way about Call Me Maybe and Carly Rae Jepsen, that you're almost doomed at that point. If you had your hit song and it was the fourth or fifth song, okay. But when you come out of the gate number one on your first song and that's what you're known for, that it's it's crazy to think that you're famous and rich because of that. But then, like, how do you outdo that? How do you up your game, or how do you, outshine that first real hit that you have? So it's kind of tough. Anyway, Jeffrey Owens, nice guy. I don't think there's anything wrong with making an honest living at a grocery store. More power to him. And at least now he's getting the spotlight, and he doesn't seem like he's shamed. He's actually getting acting roles now and offers to do work. So congrats to him. Again, my thanks to Lauren Zima from ET and ET Online, reflecting on the life of Burt Reynolds. If you do have some time this weekend, I hope you check out one of his movies, right? If you've got one of those digital or the streaming services, definitely download or rent a Burt Reynolds movie or watch one. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,